surround yourself with people that are smarter than you or have experienced more things than you, because that is where you're going to learn and grow. And being an entrepreneur is all about that. You got to keep testing things out, learning and growing.
Hello, everyone. Hi, everybody. Elle Ballard is here with you today on our podcast. Oh, I already know it's going to be such a fun conversation. Heather, my friend, welcome. Welcome,
Thank you,
welcome.
Elle. I'm excited to be here today.
So I'm excited for this conversation. Before we jump on, let me introduce Heather to you, everybody. So Heather Zeitzwolfe she's different from your typical CPA. Sure, she loves spreadsheets, but she's more apt to conduct business in glittery platform boots than a navy blazer. I love that. Heather's mission is to help midlife female solopreneurs build profitable businesses based on their superpowers. In addition to tax and bookkeeping, Heather offers profit coaching, group programs, and CFO services. You can also find her behind the mic as a speaker and host of the Get Radical with Your Business podcast. Welcome, Heather.
Thank
Great
you.
to
I'm so excited to be here with you, Elle.
Yes, it's going to be so great. So the first question I want to ask, and I always like to ask after I introduce you, is why do you choose this field?
Okay. Well, what in the world wanted I don't know why I became an accountant. No, I do. My mother, my family is just like, oh God, why would you want to do that to yourself? It seems so boring. Ugh. But I love nerdy things like numbers and spreadsheets and data and all that stuff. So it makes sense to me, but I'm also a creative person as well, and I've worked in the creative field. So to my family, it doesn't make sense, but to me, it does totally make sense. So that's what drew me to it, is the number side of it. I love business. I love reading business books. I nerd out on this stuff. And so I have brought this sort of creative side to accounting. So I'm not doing creative accounting. I want to be very clear there. There's no cooking books or any of that kind of stuff. I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking about being creative with people's businesses and
Yeah.
helping them look at their numbers and finding creative solutions for their problems. So I like to work, hand in hand with my clients to help them do that.
I love that. I love that combination of it. And I'm so glad we're talking because I've been wanting to have this conversation with you to learn more about what you do, more in depth. But I love that approach. I think it makes it more fun, especially for those like me who are not very, friendly with numbers, right? It's not it's just not my strengths. But I know we need to have them. We need to have them in place. We need to learn them. And funny enough, I actually been liking them since I've started my business. Is that funny?
Well, it's interesting. Like when you're in school and you're taking math classes, they don't tell you that like these numbers can also be dollars. And I think
Yes.
they become more interesting when you put a dollar sign in front of them,
Yes.
especially when you're making money and not sending the money out to like bill collectors or something. So
Yes.
yeah, the money coming in, yeah, that's the really fun part. But we also have to look at the money going out. So it is really important to understand your financials when you have a business. And, it isn't usually the sexy side of business. People love marketing and social media. They love that part of it. They don't want to think about the numbers because it can be kind of scary and icky and confusing. And so I try to, have like this shame-free approach where people can just ask me questions. There's no stupid questions. A lot of times people are they've told me that they have been afraid in the past to talk to their accountant because they did not want to seem stupid.
Mm.
And we should be able to talk about our business with our accountants, and we need to know what's going on with our numbers. If we're not talking about it and we're just turning a blind eye to it,
Yeah.
our business could be going in the toilet and we have no idea. And so it's so important to bring this out to the forefront and talk about it. So it may not be sexy, but put a dollar sign in front of it. It makes it more sexy.
Way more sexy. Yes. Yes. And I think that's exactly where I started liking it. You know, when I see money coming in and building our businesses, that's where I love numbers. And you're right. In school, like all the subjects, algebra and all that, it just didn't, yeah. but that's where for me, for sure. So thank you for clarifying that. Beautiful. Tell us where you were born. And this is, we are Women of the World Network community, huge diversity, women from everywhere, born in different countries. And so I always like to ask this question, right? How does your upbringing, your background, how did, in your mind, you think it limited or favored you?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. So I was born in Connecticut. So I'm an East Coast person in the US. I now live on the West Coast and I've lived here now most of my life, but I have that East Coastness kind of ingrained into me. My mom was from Minnesota. My dad was originally from like the New York, Connecticut area. So I have a lot of that East Coast vibe. Like I talk fast. I use like terms that maybe seem kind of uh they're just I'm very casual. Like I'm like, dude, what's up? That kind of thing. But although that sounds more California, doesn't it, dude? But anyways, I yeah, so that is very ingrained in who I am.
Yeah.
As far as like how it has either worked to my advantage or disadvantage, a lot of like the East Coastness. My father was in sales. I think, I don't want to badmouth my dad, but he was not the most scrupulous salesperson. So, he liked to kind of like, wheel and deal and do this stuff. And so it kind of, it was, he even sold used cars. Okay. So it's like, I mean, he sold a lot of things, but it gave me this idea that sales was sleazy. And
Mm,
because it was like, you're like out to like kind
right.
of, you know, convince somebody to buy something they didn't really need or whatever. And so that has been sort of like this thing that I'm like, don't want to do. I don't want to put that out into the world. I'm very ethical. I want, if someone's not a right fit for me for a client, I'll let them know. I'm like, I think you need to work with somebody else. So,
Yeah.
but it also makes the sales conversation kind of uncomfortable for me. So that is something that is, was in my childhood. And, when you're brought up by somebody that behaves in a certain way, it can either influence you to act that way, or you're like, I want to be
Yeah.
complete opposite of that.
Yeah. Yes. So true. So true. Yes, absolutely. It's so interesting how that influences us in life, and then we make that connection later, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
know what you mean, because I can relate to what I've got from my parents too. And it's so interesting how that's engraved in us. And sometimes we don't even catch where that, like you mentioned, the sales, the attitude towards sales come from. And until we kind of dig deeper in that, oh, that's right. That my dad used to say, do that, do this. Or my mom.
Right, right. And I talk to people a lot about money mindset and money stories, and a lot of that comes from your childhood of like how
Yes.
your parents dealt with money, or your relatives or whatever, and that is so ingrained in like our backstory. We hear these voices in our head, you know what I mean? Like it'll be like, oh, you shouldn't spend money on that. You should be saving, or whatever the story is that you were told all your life. And so sometimes we have to get rid of that chatter that's going on and do our own thing.
Yes, 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 for sure. And yeah, and for me, I think it's some of it was in my head, some of it was, oh wait, can I even do that? Oh wait, that's right. I'm living in a different country now. Or I can do this, that. It's just, or I'm doing this. It's just adding the cultural upbringing,
Mm,
culture to that makes it, of course, a little bit more complex. But so does our journeys, right? And growth and personal growth as well makes it much more fun. I want to talk about lessons in building a business. And I know there are so many lessons, and I personally love, that's my favorite part about building your business, right? Just really becoming a better version of ourselves. But what will be one of the biggest lessons that you would want to share, when you learned for yourself when building a business as a woman?
yeah. So I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I became one later in life. So I was in my 50s when I started my business.
Uh-huh.
And, one thing I would say, like, if you really want to do this, just start putting some money away first. And that way you've got a cushion if it doesn't work out. And as far as, uh, there's so many things, right? When you're starting a business, but one of the things that I learned, especially when you are a solopreneur, find a network of other people that are going through the same thing as you. Don't do this alone. Find a network. So you have a great network of women across the world. Like, okay, tap into that, because now you've got other people that can support you. They can, emotional support is mainly what I was thinking in the beginning. Was like, I just wanted someone to be able to bounce ideas off of and find, because we live in a silo of like, and now after COVID, it's like we work probably primarily in our home on a Zoom call. And so we're not even having that human connection anymore. So it's
Yeah.
really, really important to have a really solid network and find people that have the same passions, but also their purpose is aligned with you and their ethics are aligned with you, because I think it's super important to be totally aligned and find people that are beyond where you're at. So hire a coach, or find surround yourself with people that are smarter than you or have experienced more things than you, because that is where you're going to learn and grow. And being an entrepreneur is all about that. You got to keep testing things out, learning and growing and all that. So I wish in the beginning that I had opened up more of my network. I mean, I know a lot of people, so I've always had a big network, but I think it's important to have a network of female entrepreneurs, if that's what you are.
Yeah, I so agree with that. Yes, thank you for those. That's so important, right? And it's so amazing when we surround ourselves with people who are a little bit maybe ahead of us or have additional expertise. It's so amazing how everything shifts in us being part of that. Oh, it's so amazing. So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and even like new technology, like things are changing all the time.
Yes.
And I remember like well, this was during the pandemic. Someone's like, yeah, on Clubhouse. And I'm like, what's Clubhouse? And then it's like, oh, okay. So then you go on Clubhouse, and, Clubhouse isn't that much anymore. But I met a lot of people during the pandemic on Clubhouse. So,
Yeah.
you just never know all these little tidbits that you're going to get from somebody. And then, like, one thing leads to another. But if you're just working on your own, you'll never discover these things.
Beautiful. Thank you. Um, so I like to ask this question as well because we are part of Women of the World Network. What does it mean for you to be a woman of the world?
Ooh, a woman of the world. Um, a woman of the world. Okay, well, I woman of the world. I guess in my mind, that is also part of like being on the internet, podcasting, social media, all of that, because it goes all around the world. You just never know who's going to be out there watching you. So it's kind of crazy. You got a podcast, you look at the stats and you're like, wow, somebody over in Russia is listening to me. Like, what? That's kind of, it seems kind of crazy. So it is something that I could have never it would have been inconceivable, as like a teenager in the 80s to think
Right.
about that. But now it's like, it's so cool that we can be like working with people all over the world. So I'm a vegan, and I've met vegans all over the world, and so through vegan businesses and stuff. And so yeah, it just makes us more international, I guess. uh you know with my line of work, I primarily work with people in the US just because of tax law and all that kind of stuff. But um, it's so cool to like meet people all over the world, because their cultures are different. You learn they may have some tastier food. That's another thing I love.
Yeah.
But it's just getting different perspective. I mean, Americans, the thing is, Americans think that they're like the center of the universe, and they're not. And it's so great to like travel and see other cultures and everything. But yeah, it's just, woman of the world. I don't really think about that too much, but yes, I guess I am a woman of the
Yes,
world.
you are. Yes, you are. I love it. I love it. Okay, so I want to tap into your superpower.
Ooh, all right.
And I know you have so many probably tips, but can you share some of the financial super tips for entrepreneurs?
Yes. Okay. Now, for people that are first getting into entrepreneurship, Again, the money part of it can be quite scary, and they might be like, well, they just get started because they have a passion for something. They're not thinking about like, are they going to make money from it? Like they think they're going to make money from it, but they haven't really tested it out in the marketplace and all that. So, what might happen is they might start working for somebody and they're not really tracking that stuff very well. And then now they've got some expenses, they buy stuff, and they haven't opened a business banking account yet. And now it's mixed with their personal and their business. And it's like all this stuff is mixing together. So, my first super tip is when you're starting a business, think of it as a separate thing from your personal, and make sure that from the get-go you have two separate bank accounts, because in the beginning you're thinking, oh, okay, this is fine until tax time comes around, and then you've got to untangle that mess. And some people just kind of keep going like that year after year, and for one thing, it's going to cost you a lot more when you bring that to an accountant to do your taxes anyway. So just have separate bank accounts. And then make sure that you're always, tracking what's going on, because if we're not looking at our numbers, things can be out of whack and we have no idea. And, cash flow is a tricky thing. Money comes into your business, money goes out. And there's timing that's involved with a lot of that. So, you might bill somebody, but you're not going to get that money for, a few months. It depends on the deliverables or what type of business that you have. So you might be thinking like, oh yeah, I got this money coming in, but it's not coming in for a while. And now maybe you've had to hire a contractor to help you fulfill that obligation. That money's going out to that contractor, but you still haven't gotten, paid for the whole job or whatever it is. So you got to know like, okay, do I have enough money to float to like pay this other person over here before I get this payment over here? So you need to be looking at the numbers to know. So if you track your numbers, you can do more of a forecast of what the future holds. And you can look at like, if you've got sales coming in, and that way, can I cover these things? Another super tip would be that, if you are going to hire someone, you think like, okay, I think I'm going to need a virtual assistant or something, start tucking away some money for that. And as you tuck the money away, you can see like, okay, am I still able to pay myself, or am I just putting and also put some money away for taxes as well. So see if you can live that way, tucking away that money. And then if your business is still operating well, you're still making money, then you're like, okay, now I've got this buffer, I can pay this other person. And now you've got the money ready to go. And so make sure you're looking at the money, have money on hand. And if you can, have an emergency fund, because you never know what's going to happen. We had the pandemic. Some people's businesses completely tanked. Others flourished. The ones that flourished probably had, I'm guessing, some money on hand so that they could pivot and invest in some other direction that they could go into. So I always say to have, at minimum 1 month's worth of expenses and income, and remember, we're talking about expenses for your business and expenses in your personal life. Like make sure you can pay off your mortgage and all the things that you have expenses for. And then making sure that you have enough to float you in your business. So 1 month bare minimum, but I would rather have a 3, 6, or 12-month cushion in your business. If you're the type that will spend money, if you see it in the bank account, put it in a separate bank account so you don't see it.
Yeah. So great. And so true, because, it's so easy to kind of plan and, okay, I'm going to hire this person. And I definitely did that at the beginning. Like I've made that mistake of, okay, I'm opening my business, let's open this. And then, what was it? The platform where, the sales to handle the sales. But then I actually ended up going another route, which I kept paying that system. So it's so easy to get into that mode, but then we can easily underestimate when we break even, at what point we actually will break even or start making money, right? Because of the enthusiasm and energy, because we love what we do.
Right. And, we also, I love technology, and I am the first one to like be jumping on a new technology
Yeah.
train, and it's like, oh, I got to get this fancy piece of software. But we really need to look at, like, do
Right.
you need it? What are your goals for your business? Does
Yeah.
this actually make sense? And I, I'm sure you spend a lot of money on software like I do. Every month there's bills that come in, or maybe you pay for the year. But
Yeah.
we want to check and see, like, are we really getting that much benefit out of this piece of software? Maybe you can get a different piece of software that does two things that you need instead of just the one. So but if you're not looking at your numbers, you won't even probably think about those kind of things, like, oh yeah, that subscription, maybe I should get rid of that. I mean, it could be like $50 a month, and if it's not really bringing you a return on your investment, you should be evaluating that all the time, and letting go
Yeah,
of things.
that's so great. Yes, that's definitely, yes, great tip. Awesome. Thank you for those, Heather. Everybody, please, listeners, connect with Heather. She's amazing. So much knowledge. We will post links to how to connect with her.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah.
And it's such a needed area, right? Like we cannot build our businesses or lives without understanding where the money coming from and where it's going, and having a full good picture and tracking all of that. So definitely get connected with her. And with that, I'm going to move us to the rapid fire questions.
Okay, sounds good.
Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Beautiful. So your favorite book name is?
Oh, my favorite book. Does it have to be a business book or any book?
Any book?
It's probably Alice in Wonderland. That book has probably made the biggest impact on me,
I love
because I
it.
love that Alice is. Have you read it before?
Yes.
Okay, I love that Alice is curious, and that
Yeah.
is my whole thing. Is I'm very curious, and it's like curiouser and curiouser. It's like, and there's just so much magic in that book and stuff. So I definitely would say that one.
Beautiful. I love it. Beach or mountains?
Oh, beach. Mountains? No, no way. There's snow, and oh, the air is
Yeah.
thin. No, beaches all the way, and sandy beaches with the
Oh,
warm
yes.
water, and you can put your toes in the water. Not the cold beach, but the warm.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I just had this visual of Sarasota Beach. We went in Florida. I think they got like number of awards. Oh,
Oh,
beautiful.
really? Wow.
It's like crystal and oh, awesome. I love it. Favorite international destination to visit?
Ooh, okay. Well, I have not traveled all over the world. I've traveled to certain spots. But I think probably my favorite place I went to was Santorini in Greece. So that was an amazing place with the blue,
Yeah.
um, yeah, the blue
It's
roofs
on my
and all that.
list.
Yeah,
I haven't done that one yet. It's on my list. Oh,
very nice.
yeah. Summer or winter?
Oh, summer all the way. Yeah. I do not like being cold.
Me too.
I would I am okay if it's over 100, because I'll just tell myself, like, thank God it's not 30 degrees in here.
Yeah,
So yeah, I'll take heat any day of the week.
I totally relate. I grew up in a very cold temperatures. Don't miss that at all. Okay, and final question is things that you have discovered about yourself recently.
Ooh, things I've discovered about myself recently. Let's see. Things I've discovered about myself recently. How recent are we talking about?
I don't know, maybe a year or 3 to 5 years. That's gonna be ongoing
Okay,
or
this is going to be kind of a
up to
dorky.
you.
This is going to be a dorky answer, but I have really loved AI, and like the idea of like
Oh yeah.
AI in the past. Like, if you had mentioned this to me like a few years ago, I'd be like, oh my God, it's the robots taking over and all this kind of stuff. But I've discovered that I'm really embracing it and really loving it. And you can do some amazing things with it. I
Yes.
made some coloring pages that
Oh,
I'm thinking about putting out a coloring book, and I'm like, okay, maybe I can. Of course, I'm getting shiny object syndrome here, but I'm like, maybe I can make some t-shirts and do some other things. But beyond like the creative part, I've been able to incorporate using AI in my business, and it's been great. I love it.
yeah.
It's so exciting.
Interesting. That's a good one. Yeah, because that's recent. But yeah, I had the same reaction. But now I actually used this morning. Um, it's just it's helpful when we put something together, when we think about something. Yes, definitely. I love
And
that.
what I love about it is it can become an extension of yourself. So it's
Yeah.
not like you're cheating, or it's not like you're saying like create this thing out of nothing. Like, I use like, oh, I've done this podcast and I bring the transcript in from the podcast. And now I'm like, hey, turn this into a blog post, or,
Yeah.
make this into an outline or something. And so you can repurpose things much quicker and
Oh,
cheaper. It's 20
yeah.
bucks a month.
Yes. Oh, yes. I need to explore that. I have not actually looked into that. I need to explore that, and the t-shirts and everything like you're talking about. I didn't even know about that. It's
Well, you can't make a t-shirt from it, but I could create artwork and then
create. Yeah, because you create. Yeah, 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 yeah. Creative and oh yeah, I love that. That's a great idea. So much to explore. So much to learn. Heather, thank you so much for taking the time for this funny and enthusiastic and energetic conversation. We are on Zoom, but I feel like I feel your energy right now. It's
oh,
awesome.
good.
Love it. I love it. I love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Elle. This has been really fun.
Thank you so much. It's been fun. Please, listeners, connect to Heather. She is awesome, and we'll talk to y'all soon.